All right, we will get started with round 7. We have with us John Lyons, and John has served as an athletic director, an assistant principal, a principal, and is currently serving as an education recovery leader for KDE. His session is going to be about managing difficult teachers. I'm sure that none of you have any of those in your building, but just in case you do, or you might, we are excited to hear what he is going to have to share with us. So it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it. And again, for those of you who don't know me, I've met several of you looking at the participant list. But those who don't, as she said, I'm currently an education recovery leader with KDE, working primarily in JCPS. But for the 20-ish years prior to that was in building leadership, either as an athletic director, an assistant principal, or sometimes doing a couple of those roles at once. Most recently at Frankfurt High School. But today, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about, managing difficult teachers, and just like I say, just to try to hopefully give you some tools going forward, as I'm sure so many of you are going to be dealing with this. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick, and then we'll move on. This is why you should go to the walkthrough the day before. Let's see.
Let me see if I can make you a co-host if that.
Okay, that would.
Oh, I don't have the ability to do that. If you want to change the chat for everyone, if you want to change it to me, I can present for you.
Okay. And to chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And would that allow me to?
I should be able to click on it if you put a link in there for me for your presentation. If you've got it, if you have it in Google.
Yes, I sure do.
Then I should be able to present for you. It doesn't give me the option to make you a co-host.
We'll see if.
Okay, I got it. Oh, it says I have to have access. So grant me access. I'll present that for you.
Okay. Okay, you should be good now.
Okay, let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes, thank you. And like I said, this session's on managing difficult teachers, but really we're just talking about managing difficult people. This is really the biggest part of your job now. Your job has changed so much as a building leader just in these last 3 or 4 years, with what you have to do as far as working with others, with getting people in your building, with being able to manage that day to day. Go ahead, click for me, please. First disclaimer that before we start anything else, is that almost everything in this is stolen from somewhere or someone, and I'm not going to give anybody credit because that's just not the way I roll. A lot of it, even I don't know if you were watching the last session with Mike Rutherford. Some of it I was like, oh crap, I've stolen some of the stuff that we're doing in here with him. I also know that at least 83% of any statistics I talk about are completely made up on the spot, but they're going to sound good. So be sure that you're ready to go with that as well. But know that as a building leader or a district leader, there are really 4 ways that you can improve your school. The first way is just to hire better teachers. You've got to be able to attract talent. There was a time when I'll be hiring for a teacher, there'd be 20, 30 applicants for a position. And that's not the case anymore. Many times there aren't an applicant for the position, or if there are ones that 10 years ago that you never even would have glanced at before. You've got to find a way to attract more talent into your building. The second way is to improve the teachers you have. You've got to develop the folks that are in your building. Whoever you have, they're there for the year. They're hopefully going to be there for longer than that. You've got to constantly develop them. If they're a first-year teacher, if there's someone who's been there that's kind of hit that rut, or someone who's even a superstar in your building, you always are wanting to improve and grow those teachers. And the third way then is to retain those quality teachers. Again, attracting, developing, and retaining talent is your number one goal. This is the way that you're going to improve your school, or the fourth way, all of the above. You've got to hold your people. How are you going to do that in the climate that we're in today? Because it's not the people, it is the people, it's not the programs, because no program out there is going to turn your school around in a year. If they made those programs, we wouldn't be here. They would be doing it at every school, and every school would be functioning at a high level. It takes multiple years of doing the same thing, of developing what you do as a school before you start to see that progress. There's no way to do that unless you can continue to have that same group of teachers. You can't start over with your trainings every year because of turnover in your building. And you can't lose the quality teachers that you have. The teacher leaders that you have in your building, the ones that you're leaning on, that are the ones that are really doing the work and moving things. Those are the ones you've got to be able to hold those every single year if you're wanting to make progress. And that driving that positive culture in the workplace is the way you do that. Your positive culture is going to attract others. You're going to have teachers that are reaching out to their friends, to people that they've worked with before, to people that are in other districts. They'll begin to recruit for you. The people that are growing within, that are happy where they're at, they're going to stay. They're not going to be looking across the fence at grass that's greener, as long as you're taking the time to water your own grass. Be sure that's what's going to get you there. And know that because I told you so just doesn't work anymore. I'm not sure if it ever really did, not for any sustainable time anyway. Those of you that are parents, you've all used it at some point. It's at some point in your parenting, but that I told you so is not something that's going to work once you leave the room. And that's really what the true art of leadership is: getting someone else to do something that you want them to do, but to make them believe that he wants to do it. The way that you're going to truly get that culture moving is you can't be the only one in the room that's espousing the message. When you walk out, other people have got to be speaking your message as well. And the way that happens is when the teachers, when the other leadership in the building truly believe in what's going on, and that they've bought in, thinking that that's truly what they believe as well. Again, and a leader, especially in a school, is a provider of new experiences that over time are going to reshape attitudes, meaning what are the experiences that we can provide as leaders to the key people in our building that are going to define, reshape, and reinforce their attitudes. And the number one thing is to set the tone every day with every single interaction. Know that every interaction that you have, that's what is going to influence that person. I'm pretty sure it's Mike Rutherford that says that when a principal sneezes, the whole school catches a cold, meaning that your attitude, your outlook, the general aura that you bring when you're walking down the halls, when you're interacting with other teachers, when you're interacting with students, everyone watches you. Everyone sees what you're doing, and they're going to imitate that for better or for worse. And say the very first thing is get your game face on. Maybe not necessarily like this one, but you've got to be sure that you're projecting that same positive, cool demeanor every single day. They can't see the worry, the stress, the panic from your job, the stress, the burdens that you have to carry. That's something that you carry that you're not transferring to the rest of the building. Like I always like to go back to Super Bowl 23, and I'm kind of aging myself here, when the Bengals and 49ers were playing in the Super Bowl. The Bengals were up 16-13, 3 minutes to go in the game. The 49ers get the ball on their own 8-yard line, and Joe Montana gets in the huddle, and as everyone else is, really, really tense, really worried, the game is on the line, he points in the stands and says, "Hey, isn't that John Candy over there?" Like, he wasn't showing any stress. He wasn't showing any worry. He was showing the confidence that they were going to do what they needed to do. Now, whether he really believed that or not, no one will ever know. But that's what he shared with those around him. That's as the leader, that's what you've got to be sharing every day. The positivity and the confidence that what we're doing, what we're trying to implement here every day is going to work. And I know it is if we all can do this together. Now, the first thing when we talk about managing difficult people is building relationships. That is your number one goal as far as with everything that we talked about with attracting, developing, and retaining teachers. No, every teacher wants to be successful. Nobody comes to work to suck. Can I say that on a KDE broadcast that we don't want to suck? No. Anyway, they don't. They want to be successful. Invest your time in helping them. Let them feel that they're important to you, that you're not just there looking over their shoulder, that you want them to be successful and you want to help be the person that gets them there. Focus on students being successful and that teacher's role in making that occur. Meaning that you're not necessarily focused on their actions right away. You're not focused on critiquing, breaking them down, things that are going to cause them to perhaps be defensive, because you don't know, especially if you're someone new in the building, if you're someone that's or developing a relationship with someone, you don't know how their interactions with leadership have been in the past. Focus on students. We're all there for that same reason, and continue to reiterate that as you're talking about whatever these issues are. We're focusing on these students being successful. How can we make sure that occurs together? And the first conversation with a teacher, or really anyone, can't be trying to focus or correct something they've done wrong. That you build those relationships up front. Have meaningless conversations with teachers. Talk to teachers about their lives, know who their family are, know what their interests are, have some idea what they like to do on the weekend, when they leave the building, have some idea what they listen to on the radio, who they hang out with, those type of things. Build those relationships and know that it's so easy to say that you don't have time for that. There are a billion things that come across your desk every day. This can't be the thing that you set to the side. Building relationships, no matter how much time you invest in it, is always time that has been well invested. And again, and to do that in a variety of settings, and to be intentional about that. You don't want the only time that you see a teacher is when you're in the classroom doing an observation, when we're in a faculty meeting, when we're in a PD. Be intentional of having the variety of settings, meaning you're seeing them in the hallways, you're going and standing at their hall duty with them in the morning. You're being available to them after school. You're in the lunchroom, or if they're not eating in the lunchroom, you're coming in and sitting down with them and eating lunch. One of the things that was always a time that I tried to make sacred, blocking out, was having that lunchtime in the cafeteria, sitting and just eating with teachers. No, just BSing with them, just talking about whatever's going on with the day. Very rarely would it be directly related to what's going on in the classroom or specific with pedagogy or curriculum or anything like that. But you're developing those relationships that makes those other conversations easier to have later on. Again, establish that relationship up front so you can have some of these other conversations down the road. And build that circle of trust. You've got to be seen as being reliable, dependable. Do what you say and say what you do. If you tell them that you're going to be there in their classroom the next day, second period, to watch a lesson, you show up, you're there, you're giving them feedback. It doesn't matter what popped off that morning that's making it tough to get in there. You're in there if you've told them that you'll support them in going to a professional learning opportunity. If you've told them whatever it is that you've spoken about, be sure that you're following through on these things. And be accepting, not judgmental. I so badly wanted to steal the Ted Lasso clip right here with the be curious, not judgmental. But that's really, you want to be accepting, especially if they're coming to you with what they perceive as an issue or something that they want to try to help fix, or sometimes it's just griping. But you want to be able to at least be able to hear them and try to get past what the emotion is saying and look at what they're actually trying to get across to you. And be willing to engage in dialogue with feedback. Be back and forth. Don't just be waiting for your turn to speak. Actually go back and forth and listen and be open to what they're saying. You may be coming from completely different, from different vantage points. You may have completely different styles with the way that you approach education, with the way you approach a classroom, students. And in the end of the day, they may have to come over to what you're dictating, but be open to hearing what they're wanting to share. If they trust you enough to share this idea, to share this concern, then you've got to be open and make that a safe space to do it. And again, that's an easy one. Transparency. Don't have any of those hidden agendas. Try to be as upfront and as open as you can be. I used to tell my teachers, like, I'm like a puddle. Don't be looking for deeper meaning or underneath what all this is. It's really shallow. What I'm saying is what I mean. And that's what I really want everyone to be able to take me for. Again, and treating everyone with respect every day, all the time. That's every teacher. That's every student. That's the staff. That's the custodian, your cafeteria workers, everyone. Treat your teachers like the best teacher in your school treats the students, which, those are always those best relationships they have. Your best teachers have the best relationships with their kids. The best building leaders have the best relationships with their teachers. And you've got to teach your teachers. If they're not doing something the way that you want it done in your building, you've got to show them. You've got to be out there to show them by example how you want things done. And it's impossible to do that from your office. You've got to be visible. I mean, you're demonstrating the attitude you want them to see every single day. All right, and next thing, who are we talking about now? We're finally getting into managing these difficult folks. Who are these teachers that we're speaking about when we're saying these difficult people? Talking about the complainers, the freeloaders, procrastinators, backstabbers, know-it-alls, bullies, adult slackers, agitators, saboteurs. We've got all of them. Okay, every single building that feels like that you go in, the teachers are generally in three big clumps of people. You have a third of the people that are going above and beyond, and anything you ask them to do, they're doing it to the best of their ability. You have a third of the people that are doing just the bare minimum to get by. And then you'll have a third of the third of your staff that if you stood at the front door and handed them $10 bills as they walked in the building every morning, they'd be mad at you because it wasn't a 20. We've got to figure out how to work with all these people to get the most out of each one of them every day.
Hi, Nikki.
The first thing that you've got to know is once you find a problem that is happening in your building, don't ignore the problem. It doesn't go away. You want it to. It would be great if you could just ignore a teacher that is causing having a negative impact on your culture or is having a negative impact on something that you're wanting to happen in your school, but they're not going to go away. And just like Bender in Breakfast Club, you couldn't ignore him if you tried. They're going to continue to get bigger. And that first group, especially if you're a new leader, if you're somebody coming into a building for the first time, is the stall, is teachers that have outlasted previous principals who try to put in change or to deal with their performance issues, and they know they can wait you out too. They know that, hey, the last guy was only here for a year, the guy before him was here for 2 years, and before them, I've outlasted all of them. They're not going to outwardly do things that are going to cause the reprimand, but they're really not going to comply and be on board with what you're asking to do either. For that teacher, let them know that you're interested in working with them in the long term, in the long run for the school. But the big focus point for them is to follow up frequently to ensure that you're working toward those common goals. Meaning that whatever they're trying to outlast you on, be sure that you set up follow-up dates for every discussion that you have. When you have a discussion talking about if they're implementing this new reading strategy in their classroom, you've talked to them about it, you can see they're not on board. You can see in the professional development session, they're not engaged, they're not part of it. Be sure that you're following up in their classroom that next week. Be sure that you're following up with them saying, this is something that I saw in your class. It'd be great if you can find a positive for them, that if they're just trying to be compliant and do what you're asking, or maybe they're just trying to see if you are going to follow up. They should be sure that you let them know they're not going to be able to outweight you, because you're going to be there and you're going to hold people accountable to what you're asking for them to do. And then, of course, you've always got the teachers that are making excuses. If they put half as much energy into actually correcting their actions as they do into justifying and rationalizing they're the reason that they're not being successful, everything would be taken care of to begin with. These type of folks, we've got to be able to acknowledge the situation with them without causing them to double down and thinking that you agree with them. When they come to you with those justifications, with those rationalizations, when they come to you with why it's not their fault, with, well, I can't do this because, well, it's, the students, well, it's this curriculum, well, it's whatever. Acknowledge that you hear what they're saying, but we're still going to discuss what the approach is to get to the next level. Them not doing what's being asked or not implementing with fidelity because of A, B, C, D, E that they listed. I hear what you're saying, but here's the way that we're going to do this. And again, then follow up. And this often happens when you've ignored that problem. When you have someone that is not working toward the same goals that you are, and they begin to recruit other teachers, other staff members, some cases even community members, parents, to try to have that coalition to oppose what you're trying to do. Be sure that you keep those folks involved up front and help them understand exactly what you want to change and why that you want to change. I always like to keep that recruiter close to me. I want to have them to where they're going to be there close to me. They're going to be sharing their ideas with me, and even the things that they don't think are going to work, the things that they don't believe in, I want to hear it out of their mouth first, so that we can be sure that we're on the same page together. It's good. It's really hard, again, when you stay focused on student success, when you stay focused on we're just here to do the best things for students, making decisions in the best interest of students, not what's easiest for adults. It's hard to argue with it. Keep those people close to you. Let them be seen as also someone who's behind these whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish at your school. And so it leaves them less time to recruit and really gives them less credibility when recruiting. And then the good old underminer, as we get to different levels of who we're talking about. They're just toxic to your climate. They're toxic to reform. Click forward for me. These are not going to go away. You've got to develop an open communication channel with them, and it needs to be one-on-one. Be open and receptive when these faculty members share concerns with you, or when you have another faculty member that's coming to you saying, hey, this person is really starting to gain some momentum. They're really, speaking out in ways that aren't helping us, or making things more difficult for us. Be sure that's something that you've got to come in. You've got to listen, but you need to create a plan on how you're going to approach them and how you're going to kind of nip this in the bud before it gets to a point where you're really not going to be able to come back from it. Again, and put in place those positive processes to hear and evaluate those concerns as you implement any change or initiative. The more that you can hear those concerns before things get kicked off, where you give them a chance to have a voice up front, the better you're going to be when you're addressing those concerns later on, when they're saying, well, see, this is why I didn't want this to happen. That at least you're going to know where they're coming from, and you're going to have an opportunity for them to voice what changes could have been made up front. And I always loved, that last principle didn't have a problem with. That's where I really have to count to 3 before I answer, because the smart aleck side of me really has some good replies to this. They don't do anything to help culture, but would seem like they would feel really good for those 4 seconds I got to say them. But just reaffirm to them, but you are a different principal with different expectations. Things may have worked very well before under different leadership. This is the direction that we're going now. And always give them, and this is the why. This is why that I believe in this. This is why that we're implementing this change. And this is why I'm expecting everyone to do these same things. And then in an attempt to mask, they shift the blame for problems to other employees. And a lot of this will sometimes go into that same blaming the other teachers in the department, blaming the teacher next door to her, blaming other people for not doing their job. That's going to cause them then to have their deficiencies. Again, always focus on problem solving what they control. What is in their sphere of control? And if it keeps coming back to, well, but you've got to, I know and that's under my sphere of control. I appreciate you bringing those things to my attention, but what are the things that you can do that are going to help you and to improve your situation? And how can I support you? Tell me ways that I can get in and help. And then, of course, follow through with whatever you say that you're going to do. And again, so many times you have teachers that don't see how their behavior is impacting others or is impacting the whole climate of the school. And there are times that they may realize that they're not giving everything they could, but they don't understand how they begin to erode others around them. Give them feedback, help them understand how they are huge to building the culture in the school. You depend on them for more than what you're seeing now. You've seen this before. You know there's more to them. You believe in what they can give. Show them how their behavior is affecting what we're trying to do. And then my favorite, the on-the-job retiree. You've seen that every year, it's about this time when they start talking about, are they going to retire this spring? Are they going to go one more year? Are they going to go 3 more years? And they've already retired. They're in the chair doing little to nothing. They're showing up every day, but they're not doing the job to the level where they used to be able to do it, or the level that you want to. Again, appeal to their legacy. Talk to them about, this isn't the effort and the level that the level of education you're providing right now that's not what you've been about for your whole career. Give them an important task or job that uses their skills and passions. Especially their passions. If there are things, everybody has things, especially if they've been there 25, 30 years, that they love. There are things that they really care about and they want to sustain. Make them be a part of that. Put them with that. Offer a trade-off of things that something you can take off their plate if they're willing to step up and be a leader in another way. If they're able to mentor someone younger, if they're able to host a model classroom, if they're able to do some of the things where you're really appealing to their ego, and then pair them with some of those younger folks. And a lot of times I put that pairing as, you're sharing with them everything that you've learned over the years, but so much of the time it boosts their ego for having someone come to them, or having someone, just that young teacher energy. It rubs off on you. You need that energy. Just being able to pair those folks together to get a little bit more out of them. And even working with them to develop that succession plan. If you know they're going at the end of the year, they've already told you, hey, I'm gone in June. There's nothing that's going to turn. Okay. Well, hey, could you help me as far as filling your role? What's going? I know you carry so much here in this school now. You're probably doing another 10 jobs I don't even know about because they get taken care of before they ever come to me. Can you help me come up with a succession plan of who you can coach up before you leave on all these things that you do, and the things that I don't want to be finding out next September that after you're gone, oh, nobody's doing that because so-and-so isn't with us anymore. Work with them because again, they've been there for that long. They want things to improve. And I always go back to the Tim Duncan and David Robinson. When Tim Duncan was drafted #1, David Robinson was still a stud in the league. He was still an MVP candidate, but he took his time knowing that he was the mentor of trying to coach him up on the floor. He wanted, when he walked off of the floor, for Tim to be able to seamlessly step into where he was. That's what you're wanting those teachers to be. Somebody that's wanting to when they walk away, for the machine to keep turning, for things as they hoped that they would be in that school, in that classroom, in that department with those kids, for them to continue after that they step away. Again, raise the praise, minimize the criticize. I'm pretty sure I stole that straight from Mike Rutherford. Staying positive. The being critical very rarely is going to cause the change that you want, until you've got that praise, until you have someone that knows that you believe in them, that has a relationship with you, that wants to develop for you. Otherwise, they're just going to hear you as someone else in their ear. And finally, if your actions inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. The way that you work with your staff now is your #1 job, especially, like say, most of our schools now are having trouble even filling positions, no less being able to retain quality individuals. That the time that you spend recruiting folks, developing the people that are in your building, and then keeping them happy, contributing to your culture so they're not looking to move other places, that's got to stay a focus for you. I know that this isn't going to answer all the every issue you have with a difficult person or difficult teacher in your building, but I'm hoping at least gave you some other tools in your Rolodex to be able to go to when dealing with them.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? I don't see any in the chat.
Thank you all for having me today.
Okay, and we'll get a copy of your slide deck to Keith so that he can put that in the grid. I think someone said
Okay.
they weren't updating as we went through, so we'll just make sure that we get a copy of that and put in. So we do have a 10-minute break before we start our final round at 1:20. I'm sorry. Yes, no, not 1:20. I'm sorry, 2:00. That's the one we just had. Round 8 will start at 2:00. So if you're going to another breakout room, you're welcome to go do that now and take a little break and be back at 2.